liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we go into roll call, I just want to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded for YouTube, so any conversations can be picked up. You're welcome to use the vestibule to do that. With that, let's go ahead and go ahead.
Is anybody on here?
Yeah, Stacia will find out.
Steve Jarvis.
Here.
Bill Miner.
Here on the phone.
Jim Peterson.
Present.
John Johnson.
Here.
And do we have anyone else on the phone?
That's Sunday.
At Sunby? And I
That's
heard,
Sunday, Deacon Drive.
yep, and I heard, was that Carol?
No, Cheryl Wickham.
Okay. Cheryl Wickham.
Cheryl.
Okie dokie. And we might want to turn it down a little bit. Or is it that?
Yeah, I think we're playing.
Hi.
Stop.
Yep.
You're playing
I'm
something.
like, why is it doing that?
Well, we'll pick that up on the YouTube so you can pick up the first half. Okay. Before we go into consent calendar, I just want to move one of our items. We've got the Pennington County Sheriff's Report. In order to be mindful of their time and really let them do what they need to be doing, which is protecting our town, we're going to move them up right after the approval of the consent calendar before right after public comment. Sorry about that. Right after public comment. Okay. So with that being said, the consent calendar, approval of 12/9/19 agenda, approval of 11/25/19 meeting minutes, and approval of claims. Any discussion?
I'm going to move the city attorney, city administrator, Connie Walters down to action items.
Okay. So there are actually 3 bills that were submitted by the attorney. So we will deal with each one of those individually, so those will be 3. And then we'll have the administrator and Connie Walters. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Steve Jarvis. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim Peterson. Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Jim Peterson.
Yes.
Bill Miner.
Yes.
John Johnson.
Yes.
Steve Jarvis.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, motion carried. Public comment. Members of the public may speak on any matter that's not on the agenda. Please limit your remarks to 2 minutes per speaker. Do we have anyone who'd like to address the council? Okay, doesn't appear that we have any, so let's move on to our next item, Pennington County Sheriff's Report.
Hello, everybody. In the November report, we had 9 total arrests. 8 of those were warrant arrests, so the guys were out picking people up with outstanding warrants. And then we had a non-warrant arrest, and that was a DUI arrest. Other than that, I don't have a lot to report. Sounds like the parade went pretty well,
Yes.
so,
It
yeah.
It's everybody held off, exactly, and we had maybe 75% of the audience and 95% of the float, so
Excellent.
I think we had a lot of people.
Right on. So are there any questions for me regarding the report or anything else in general?
Anybody? As always, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Y'all have a Merry Christmas, too.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Okay, moving on to action items. We'll start with action item 6A1, A, B, and C. So 6A1, the bill for the city attorney. The first bill that we have is for a total of $511.28. And that bill represents, let's see, expenses, this 511.28, the breakdown of it is. Okay, so it appears that everything in this bill is related to work done on Sunset Creek. So with that being said, I know previously with Sunset Creek issues, Mr. Peterson has been excluded from that.
I
So,
recuse myself usually, and I know how to do that.
okay. So, any discussion, any questions, any? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the bill of $511.28.
So moved.
I have a motion, is there a second?
I can second, Kathy.
There's a second by Alderman Minor. Roll call vote, please, Stacia.
Steve Jarvis,
Aye.
John Johnson,
No.
Jim Peterson,
I recuse myself.
Bill Minor,
Yes.
Motion carries. The next bill we have is for $360, and the detail of that is fees for conference meeting attendance, or for council meeting attendance, 2 meetings on 11/12 and 11/25. The total is $360. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Jarvis. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second there, Kathy.
Second by Alderman Minor. Roll call vote, please.
John Johnson,
No.
Jim Peterson,
Yeah, yes.
Bill Minor,
Yes.
Okay.
Steve Jarvis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, a little bit zealous there. Okay, motion carries. And then the third bill we have for attorney services, $456.62 for services related to personnel issues and other items in support of the city. Any discussion on that bill? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Jarvis, is there a second?
Mayor Kathy, I'll second again.
Second by Alderman Minor, roll call please.
Jim Peterson,
Yes.
Bill Minor,
Yes.
John Johnson,
No.
Steve Jarvis.
Yes.
3-1 vote, motion carries. All right, now let's take a look at the salary for the city administrator. Any conversation? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I can second again.
And Alderman Minor, roll call vote please.
Bill Minor,
Yes.
John Johnson,
No.
Jim Peterson,
Yes.
Steve Jarvis.
Yes.
All in favor, or 3-1, motion approved. And now on the docket is the pay for Connie Walters. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Steve Jarvis,
Yes.
Jim Peterson,
Yes.
John Johnson,
No.
Bill Minor.
Yes.
Motion approved, 3-1. Okay, action item 6A, resolution 2019-14, approval of contingency transfer. Stacia?
As in the 2019 budget, we had a contingency budget of $64,320.42. We would like to transfer $1,188 to the law enforcement expense item due to a number regarding the budget when they did that in 2018 when they entered a number in there. So it was exceeded by that amount. And also then for the cemetery expenses, we need 5,500, and that's for the contract work we did with the mowing over at the cemetery, and also CenturyLink was not budgeted for the phones at all, so we need to cover that for the phones that I use to deal with any cemetery issues here at City Hall. And then also we were short with the fire department in the water billing of how much water they used for the year. So we just need to extend that. So the total for coming out of the contingency will be $5,838.
So the mowing was something that we did after the fact, and we never did have a line item, and then we just didn't break out the phones to the cemetery for its
Right,
portion of it.
there was nothing budgeted in the 2019 at all for phones for the cemetery. Because usually you break it out into each different department,
Yep.
and for some reason that got missed.
Okay. And then the only other thing, you're an interim finance officer, right?
Yes,
Okay,
and we'll get that changed on the
Okay.
one that will be signed.
just so it's accurate.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Questions? Anybody? Okay, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Peterson, is there a second? Second by Alderman Johnson, roll call vote, please.
Jim Peterson,
Yes.
Bill Miner,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Jarvis.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, motion carried. Action item 6B, setting of 2020 election date of June 2nd, 2020, and approval of the 2020 combined election agreement with the Pennington County Auditor. And Stacia.
As the primary will be June 2nd, we will combine like we have done in previous years with Pennington County and the school system. And hopefully we'll have a lot more turnout for voters. That way, nothing has changed in our election agreement with them. Everything has stayed the same of what we are required to publish to what they're required to publish. And the cost to that is the exact same that it's been in previous years.
So no change.
No change. Just a date of June 2nd and a signature from us. That's all it's asking.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
We'll take Alderman Jarvis second. Roll call vote, please.
Steve Jarvis,
Aye.
John Johnson,
Aye.
Bill Miner,
Yes.
Jim Peterson.
Yeah.
All in favor, motion carries. No other action items, we'll move into report items. We've already heard from the Pennington County Sheriff's Department, so let's now hear from the Hill City Chamber.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to all of you. And Bill, I will send you this when I get home tonight from my computer, the report. This is probably the most intensive, busy period of the year for us, the last quarter, because we're in production, heavy production and planning for the coming year. So this past month was really characterized again by heavy administrative and management support at the Chamber, event support through our promotion, attendance, media, and social publicity, including coordination with our reporters, sharing out and promoting our events and Hill City in general. Also coordinating and attending and working the events. Our mixers are, again, for planning for Girlfriend's Weekend and Old Time Christmas. Grateful that the weather held off for the most part for us to be able to hold our parade. And grateful to all of our entrants, all of our fire departments, all of our organizations, our Grand Marshal, everyone who participated. And I really am grateful for everyone's help in making that an annual tradition here in Hill City. And again, the last thing is incredibly intensive period for working on our events calendar, our Southern Hills Vacation Guide, South Dakota Vacation Guide, our advertisements and editorial content, and that's what I've got to do immediately once I leave this meeting for another round of final proofing for the Southern Hills Vacation Guide. We're very fortunate to have great support from our media for News Center 1, a community weather feature for Girlfriend's Weekend and Old Time Christmas Parade. Dominique, the reporter from News Center 1, brand new in the area. I invited her to my home for Thanksgiving, so that was awesome. We did a 5:45 live shot, community weather on Thanksgiving Day. So that was a very successful promotion for us. One thing that you can see toward the bottom of my report, you can see what really garners engagement and views with our audience, our people who follow us. The Alpine is always a hit, especially this year with our gnomes that Wally produced. Our Old Time Christmas, also very popular. One thing we're doing with our events, we are using active, descriptive words to communicate what it is that we have here in Hill City. We're trying to separate ourselves out from the noise. We're trying for this holiday to tell people that we are a magical place to be. And there's a message that someone messaged me on my phone I got to take a look at. They said they were coming with their children. And I saw children here on Saturday, a lot of people with at the train, the arrivals from the train, the Holiday Express. So it's very important that we continue to use a very active voice in how we promote Hill City. That's very important. One other thing that I found that was very interesting as I was looking through our Google Analytics, and I'm going to attend a workshop here on the 20th. One thing that I saw that's important is that we have a lot of people who are checking our website, returning to our website. And when I looked at the categories, and I had them out and I forgot to type them in, on our categories, people want to know what there is to do. They want, for instance, in November, the next thing after they went to our landing page and they went to what is there to do, they went to Old Time Christmas. After that, it was events. So they want to know what's going on in Hill City. They want to know where they can stay. They also looked for events for Girlfriend's Weekend, and this doesn't appear on there because I had it out and I forgot to type it right before I came, so I apologize for that. So I'm just telling you this now. Shop came in at the same level as before. They want to know what they can do for shopping, where they can shop. They also want to know where they could stay, and cabins came in in the stay category. And then the last one was, and the top 10 ones, top items that people searched for were events and the Holiday Express. So again, people want to know what is there to do, where can they shop, and where can they stay. And in the peak season, we see where can they eat. They want to know where they can eat and dine. So that's pretty important. Going forward, the most important thing that's happening right now is we're working very collaboratively, and we're really excited about that opportunity to work with our businesses and merchants for Q1 advertising. People are excited, and that's going to be this is a really great partnership. We had our first meeting last week. We have another one on Wednesday. So today I met with Rick, and we are looking at where we're going to concentrate our advertising to promote our events and our businesses. We're going to pitch it to the group and fine tune it, and then we'll get ready to rock and roll with that. Other things that are important on the docket would be completing the billboard, the look of the billboard south of town. I've got a couple of options to show our board tomorrow. We're also looking at how we can increase our presence with local marketing. So we're going to send out an RFP to local agencies for that. Also, something very important for Hill City. United Way has been increasingly interested in working with Hill City to have a revitalized presence here. That was something that they had before I came on board. We've started to increase that presence and what we can do to support Hill City and our residents here, our local community. Well, the great thing is I've been also approached by another resident who is interested in bringing on Meals on Wheels. That's another agency or another organization or component of United Way. So we're going to, I've reached out to the Meals on Wheels director, and he must be awfully busy because I haven't been able to make a connection with him, but I have through the United Way. Wednesday morning, we are going to have a meeting at United Way. So there are interested parties. Glad that you can attend for that. Another thing, to promote Hill City, have a presence, the Hill City Day at the Rush. So, and there was a great photo I got of you with Nugget.
Nugget.
And it was awesome. So that went on, that was, I was really pleased with that, and that we were able to share that out on Facebook to give us some recognition. So that's something that's in the works with our friends up at the Rush. And we have season tickets. So if anyone, I'll have to put this out in our newsletter. So if anyone is interested in making themselves available for those dates to attend a Rush game, we have season tickets. That's a trade out that we did with them for our membership. So we'd like to be able to take advantage of those and share those out with our friends. Holiday promotion, that's still happening, marketing, planning, our social media content planning, that's always ongoing, but this is a very intense period. I now have a new computer. My computer was old, outdated, the hard drive was failing, and there were files that were corrupted. I was without a computer essentially from Wednesday, Thursday of last week when it started going down, but I got it fixed. We've got a new one that now I have support with this new computer. So that just got that up and running again today. So that's why your report is being presented to you in person. Things that are really important for all of us to note, I think, going forward. Tomorrow we have our chamber board meeting, 12 noon. Everyone's invited. Q1 advertising, that is happening on Wednesday at the Hill City Cafe, 8:30. Media alert. Remember, I'm always talking about how we're positively promoting, fiercely dedicated to promoting Hill City. News Center 1, Anya Mueller is coming to promote Hill City in the holidays, South Dakota State Railroad Museum. Very excited about that. She will be here Wednesday, noon. Also, on Friday, I had my dates wrong. I thought it was going to happen today, but it was on the 13th. Friday the 3rd, no, I think it's actually Monday. I think that date is still not correct. It's on Monday the 16th. We have KOTA has a live 6 o'clock broadcast with Rick and myself at the South Dakota State Railroad Museum. Again, promoting the holidays, all about promoting the holidays. And we're excited because we want to drive people to our website, visithillcitysd.com, where we have all of our events listed. They're being updated even as we speak. And that's very, very exciting to get all of those things posted. City of Hill City, we've got you listed for the open house here. United Way meeting right before that on Wednesday the 11th, 9 o'clock. That's going to be at the VIC. And then don't forget Thursday night, we have always a very well attended holiday mixer at the South Dakota State Railroad Museum. So there's that for you. And my VIC numbers. One thing that I noticed that I thought was very interesting, we had a lot of phone calls, a lot of phone inquiries this month. Those doubled from, and I've got extra copies. Those actually doubled from last year. If anybody does anyone need a copy? That was in your packet. We had, last year at this time we had, no, I guess I had that wrong. I looked at the wrong month. I looked at December. 170 calls last year for phone. 170, and almost neck and neck, 156 this year. So almost on par. So I'm happy with that. And people want to know what's going on and want to know. A lot of people want to know about the parade. So we had a lot of engagement for that. People look forward to it. So glad we were able to make it happen. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Very intense period. Very intense as we go through and get ready for the upcoming year.
There was a lot of excitement with Nugget at the parade. I think that was a great addition. The kids were.
I guess so.
That was a really nice thing. So.
Yeah. So grateful to all of our partners, and thank you for bringing in the BMX folks too. That was awesome. So next year, we always strive to be bigger and better. So that's the plan. So
any questions? Anybody? Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Janet, I just want to thank you for your collaborative effort on that first quarter advertising.
Well, thank you. My pleasure and my privilege, and boy, are we excited. So, it's all about drawing people from within a 150-mile radius. So today we identified and reviewed our demographics, our target markets, who comes to our events, and the best ways to effectively reach them. So we've already gotten some preliminary information for a budget for dollars. We know roughly how we want to break it out, but we have to fine tune it a bit, and that's what will happen on Wednesday. So thanks for that recognition, Bill. Appreciate it, and your support.
Well, thank you for your hard work on that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay, then we have public director's report. So unfortunately, we've had some challenging weather along with pipes breaking and things like that happening. So the Public Works Department was given a reprieve from coming today to report to the council. We do have the department report that's in your packet. And in addition to that, I received some additional items. So I just wanted to let the council know what additional items that the department wanted to let us all know about. So this is actually from Lucas Hadlock. I had 2 items to discuss in addition to the written report. First, with the multiple snowstorms, I've spent lots of time in the new F-350 plowing snow and can report that it works great. Thank you for the plow, I really appreciate it. Second, we are working on a plan to address water leaks. With 15 miles of water mains and over 450 water services, we need to narrow down where we start looking. We are working on being able to run individual usage reports for the high and low sides, and then look for clues in the monthly data, like if leaks increased or decreased with seasonal turn-ons and offs. With the leak found last Friday and repaired on Park Street, and the August leak repaired on Ponderosa Avenue, we are making progress, but there will always be new leaks, Lucas. And I think Brett actually has a piece of evidence here. That was the pipe. So we did have a water leak that was on Park Street. All the residents that were impacted by it were notified telephonically. Alexander, in the midst of everything else that we had going on, Alexander Drilling came out to dig the hole. He had Don there with him. They were able to locate the leak and fix it within a few hours. So that is the culprit of the last leak we had. I don't know if you want to talk about anything interesting relative to that pipe, Brett?
No, we had Dallas Alexander do the excavation, and it was fairly easy to expose it and get to it. It looks like the metal is being corroded somehow. According to the crew, I think we worked on this pipe like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. As you can see, there's some corrosion that's going on here where there's actually something that affected it. So
That's a service line?
yeah, so it was on our side of the curb stop, so it's our responsibility to repair it. So it's all back together now, but I've seen other locations in that same general area of the Catholic Church and further south on Pine Street, up on the hill. We've done some service curb stop work, and we've seen similar corrosion. So I think there's something in the soil up there that it's having some interaction of some sort. So I think it's just a reality of where we live. So we try to do what we can to bed the pipe properly and keep it from reacting to something that's out there. But obviously, if you have a problem, you got to fix it. So.
Okay. So that's what we had for Public Works. Moving on to Common Council. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Minor on the phone. Do you have anything to report out, Bill?
You'll probably appreciate that I'm not there spreading germs. It's been, 3 weeks I've been sick now, so hope to get over this. I want to thank everybody. I've tried to call into various meetings and things and keep in touch. I don't know if you're going to report on this later or not, Mayor Kathy, but I checked YouTube. We had 74 and 76 viewings with the last 2 council meetings that have been posted. So somebody's watching them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else, Bill?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. Jim?
Yeah, I got a handout for you on a little report, and I just wanted to visit a little bit. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And then if anybody else, maybe a handout. Anyway, this is just a quick little synopsis on a little bit of what I might call a sort of a reality check to how we get revenues here in Hill City. So basically, I've been hearing that things like that are coming up that people are probably misconstruing this, but we don't want to be a tourist community. We don't want to look like a tourist community. And I think realistically, they're saying all kinds of different things, but what does it really mean? But the reality is what is Hill City? If we're not a tourist community, which I believe we are, we're also a bedroom community to Rapid. And I think there's this big perception of what we want to be and what the reality is. So I did some research, had some people help me with this. For 21 years I've been here now, I've been hearing, let's be year-round. And that doesn't seem to have gotten any traction or the ability to, it seems to be going the other way, to be quite frankly. And why is that? And I think there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. One of them being access to Rapid City. Rapid City is now 20 minutes away. I mean, how many of you shopped and bought stuff and are planning on buying stuff this week in Rapid? How many of you are, so there's that whole component, and yet we got people here that are trying to do business, and it's just the way it is. I mean, I don't think there's any, it's just a fact. Online shopping, all of you, all of us, this isn't accusatory, it's just facts. How many are buying stuff online? And you can be in your pajamas and it'll be here the next day if you want it to be. So those are just simple facts of what's going on. So online ordering, we're just human. We can get it quick, fast, and blah blah blah. So what does that do to our basic, year-round thing? I don't think it helps. I think those are issues that we got to try to figure out. And I have sort of some ideas, but at the end of the day, it really creates no loyalty to Hill City. You want to think perception-wise that we are, but it just isn't because of these convenience. I mean, look at people that came here like Harley Davidson. They had hoped to be open longer than they are. They aren't anymore. They economically can't afford it. I mean, if you're losing money for 4 months, breaking even for 3 months, and making a profit in 5, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just the bottom line. So this idea, what I did then is I looked at, well, Hill City has an appetite. It's called money. It runs on basically 2 major factors. One is real estate taxes, and the other is sales tax. And if you look, really the sales tax and the real estate tax made up I'm just going to use round numbers, $1.6 million in 2018. We have an appetite of a little over $2 million. There's other things that comprise, water, sewer, all that kind of stuff. But the lion's share is sales tax and real estate taxes. The interesting thing is that real estate taxes are made up of 2 categories. One is owner-occupied, and the other one is non-owner-occupied, or what you might call commercial, or some people might have a second home. And of the real estate taxes, 60% of that comes from non-owner-occupied or commercial. So at the end of the day, if you look at a 12-month segment, of that $1.6 million that came in 2018, 82% of that, over 12 months, came through sales tax and real estate tax of non-owner-occupied real estate tax. 82% of that budget. And then if you want to get a little further, you can look at it over a 6-month period of time where we would consider it to be our tourism time, May through October. That number only dropped to 73%. So the lion's share of that sales tax is coming over 6 months. So the bottom line is that we're a tourist town. And if we didn't have tourism, what would that look like? Well, if you look at the 6 months of sales tax and you kind of average that, and you kind of look at that and go, well, that would be our year-round. An interesting thing that somebody did is they took and looked at 10 other communities within the population range of, say, 900 to 1,100 people, where we fall into. If you average all 10 of those other communities in South Dakota, our sales tax is 65% higher than any one of those. And these are just facts. And so the reason I bring this up is because we have to, I think, embrace who we are and what we are. There's this perception we don't want to be a tourist town. But I think the question is how do we do tourism better? And I heard it tonight with Janet. We're not going to compete with Amazon. We're not going to compete with online shopping. We're not going to compete with Rapid City. But what do we have? We have a location that people like to come to, mainly in the summertime, or but it's the experience that they have here. So if we knock the experience thing off the chart, we can make that sales tax even higher. But let's get rid of the sales tax or the commercial deal, and the appetite then is 70% less that you have for monies to pay for this town. And that's what it comes down to. And so, my point is, we have to realize and embrace what we are, and then try to make it better. We all have different ideas on what that is, but the bottom line is, without the commercial tourism, we're going to be one of those 10 other towns. And it's pretty nice to live in a town that 80%, 70, I'll just use 70% of that number I talked about is paid by other people rather than yourself. And I think there's a big realization that needs to happen. And once we get that, and we look at what tourism for this town, because thank God we have it. Everybody, I'm on the front lines of real estate, and the biggest complaint I have is the expense of real estate taxes. I moved here 21 years ago, 750 people. We're now just barely 1,000. I've watched city government grow to double its size. I don't understand why. So I'm just pointing out, and these are some hard facts, and I think something to maybe look at. But I think in terms of tourism and how we maintain and differentiate ourselves, couldn't have been said. Thanks for the segue, Janet. Experience. The experience of what we can offer people here in those 5 months, those 6 months. Because clearly, the other 6 months, that revenue isn't coming in. And that's us. That's the community. I don't think you're going to change your habit of buying online. I don't think you're going to change your habit of going into Rapid. I'd like to. I'd like to say that we could be loyal to this town. But it's just human nature. And I think some people try. I'm not accusatory. I'm just saying how it works and what's actually happened. So that's my little spiel on numbers,
At least now we
reality.
get sales tax, I think, off our online sales.
What's that?
I think at least now we get sales tax off our online sales.
That'll sure help. And this has no reflection of triple B monies. Just none whatsoever, which is all, to me, it's all, on its own, and that's the marketing arm and all of that. But, so the reality is, our commercial endeavor here, which is tourism, which happens, if you look at it, is 70% of the income that's derived out of those two big numbers. I think it's a big thing. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Okay.
I have nothing tonight.
Alderman, nothing tonight. Alderman Jarvis, Alderman Johnson.
Christmas party.
Christmas party.
Went to that, that's it.
Yeah, we had a local restaurateur help us out. We had a little situation at the 11th hour, and Desperados was able to accommodate everyone with almost an exact same menu, and the food was wonderful. So we do appreciate that. We do appreciate that.
Pardon?
You want one of the arrests?
I wasn't. They even let me in.
Okay.
Had my own table clear at the back of the room.
Okay, so my report out. So last week we had a groundbreaking ceremony. As everyone probably remembers, the TIF was approved. And there was a groundbreaking that occurred over at the location. It was on the news. We got good publicity from it. And I appreciate all those who attended it to support that cause. It's got a lot of legs. On the heels of that, I received a call last week from one of the parents of children in our school. And they said, hey, can you come on down to the school? They're having their Lego First League Robotics scrimmage. So I said, sure, I'll come down to the school. And she says, well, I think you'll be interested because the team is doing something on affordable housing. So I went down there. It was a practice. They had their competition on Saturday. Last year, the Lego robotics team took first place in city, and then they took fourth place in state. So city was on Saturday. They took first place with their presentation. I have shared it out on my Facebook page. So Janet, if you want to pick it up and push it out. The kids did probably one of the most adorable presentations. They talked to experts, so Jim was there without being there. Jim Skull was there without being there. They did a lot of work. But what that really told me was there's things that happen at our level, and I think sometimes we lose sight of the impact that it has to the entire community, even the little ones. And this was a great example. I was told that there wasn't a whole lot of directing them toward that topic. The kids had just heard that it's an important thing, and they went out and did their research. So the kids took first place. Let's hope they can place high again this year in state. It was a wonderful thing to see the younger part of our community, our future, actually taking hold of some of these initiatives that we're working on. We do have our open house on Wednesday from 3 to 6, so come join us. There'll be some snacks, there'll be food and homemade hot chocolate and all kinds of other things. So come on and join us to start the holiday right. Bill had done a little bit of a segue into it, but I'll add, I have actually started to receive feedback from residents on the ability to view our council meetings on YouTube. And it's very favorable feedback that I'm hearing. I've received written communication as well as people stopping me. As a matter of fact, there was a woman at the groundbreaking who came over and said, thanks so much, because I have commitments on Mondays. I can't make every meeting, and this allows me to see things that I want to. And I guess I kind of take place with that as well, because I'd love to be able to attend the school board meetings, but they run the same night, so you have to have priorities. So it's an offering, and I'm hoping that it continues to pick up and we'll have lots of hits next time. I attended the planning and zoning meeting last Monday, and the majority of the conversation was looking at the sign ordinance that are being proposed. So the meeting was moved to 7 o'clock to allow additional people to come and give their opinions about what was happening. We had one local business owner that came, hotel owner, and he asked questions about two specific things. The one was the height and size requirement that was passed through to on-premise freestanding signs relative to speed limit. So in our ordinance, there was a distinguish between 35 miles an hour and then other speed zones. So they kind of combined those, which in effect reduced the height and the size requirements. So he brought that to the table, and that was received by the Planning and Zoning Commission, who plan on going and taking that back and taking another look at it. The second thing that came out, which I think is it's a great piece of feedback, was relative to grandfathering. So we talk about grandfathering all the time, but what does it really mean? You know, what does grandfathering mean? So I believe the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to go back and they're going to take an opportunity to look and see if there's some way that that could be added from a definition perspective. So I'm sure that we'll see more individual results from the Planning and Zoning Commission. We also had the opportunity to have some conversation during the report out section. And I commend Raleigh Nome. He's one of the Planning and Zoning Commission members. And he asked a pretty, it should be a simple thing to fix, but I think it was a pretty important question. The vein of it was, how do we work better together with the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission so that when we're prioritizing our items to work on and we're looking at things that we need to do, we know that there's a level of support that happens with it. And I think there have been, even in my tenure here, there have been some instances where Planning and Zoning has done some changes or reviewed or edited something, and then it hits the council level, and sometimes it dies there, sometimes there are suggestions. So we talked a little bit about that in the meeting, and some suggestions were made with things such as when they start prioritizing their list, maybe have representation at the City Council to go through that and give some feedback on that. So I think there's ways that we can improve that, but I was extremely encouraged by the atmosphere at the Planning and Zoning Commission and what they showed as far as their willingness and desire to work together as a team, right? We're all here hopefully for the same purpose, to move Hill City forward. And with that being said, the most effective way we can do that is working together, not working in our own little silos. So I appreciate all the efforts that the Planning and Zoning Commission are making with that, and I expect that we'll be seeing a lot more and hearing a lot more in the future. The last thing that I had that I wanted to mention is I've received a couple emails from some of our community members. So I have some questions that were posed here. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take time to read these and then answer the questions with the information that I've been able to gather. These are just two that I have actually received hard copy in writing. I have had some similar questions asked by people on the street. It would be nice to, could we find this out? So let's read through this and then I'll go ahead and address it the best way that I can with the information that I have. So the first one was a PDF that was sent to me in an email. It says, Kathy, as I sit in the audience during council and listen to these proceedings and all the pointless delays for pay, then continual, it seems, constant interruptions, and add in this seemingly frivolous lawsuit, I can't help but wonder as a citizen and property owner what this is costing the city. I formally request to make public a breakdown of all monies paid to all attorneys, whether it is the city's funds or insurance funds, which is the same thing. When a fee is paid due to this case, it is still a cost and may result in an increase of insurance premiums. I formally request a breakdown of all the time dedicated to this case by all employees and the estimated cost to the city of lost wages due to the fact they were taken away from completing their normal day task. This is all information that should be made available to the public to the best of your ability as soon as possible. Also, if possible, could you please explain why some employees of the city and 2 other council members are being sued as well? As the public sit and watch this play out, I feel it is important to be transparent as possible in a very timely manner. Sincerely, Daniel McNamara. The second letter that I received is on the same vein, so I'm going to read it as well. This is from John Walters on Pine Mountain Avenue. So here we are, the citizens of Hill City sit with the judge's favorable ruling only to hear that the judge's ruling might be appealed. Regardless of an appeal or not, the tax-paying citizens deserve to know all the costs expended thus far in defense of the suit. I am well aware that the city's insurance company has taken the responsibility to defend the city and will bear most of the cost. The insurer surely must have a tabulation of their costs thus far in this defense. And I know that those costs for the defense are not a direct cost to the city. However, these costs will most likely be seen in an inflated adjustment to the city's insurance rates in the future. To say that their costs are free to the citizens is like saying that the federal government building is a highway, a highway is free to us. As a tax-paying citizen, I deserve to know all costs involved to defend the city in this absurd lawsuit. Please tabulate and inform the citizens of all direct and indirect costs for city staff, attorneys, travel, etc. I am sure that if the citizens are informed of these costs, they would be very upset and would not at all happy with the 2 aldermen bringing the suit. Let those aldermen bear the weight and responsibility of their actions. Perhaps they would drop the matter if citizens voiced their informed opinion to them. Thank you for your strong leadership and hard work. So, to start with some of the questions that were raised in this. So what I do not have is I do not have an accounting of what the impact was or costs that were associated for things that wouldn't be billed. So that would be things like our city administrator's time. I believe that would be the only case in which there was any time that was expended that would actually be seen by the city. So there's hours from that perspective. You also have the hours from any council person that we really can't quantify. So whether it be the mayor or a councilman, there were things that needed to be asked. There was time that needed to be done. So although no cost was expended, it does take away from time that could and should have been spent on other things that need to be done for the city, addressing performance issues, getting the team together, things like that. So those are kind of the things that are not tangible. In addition to that, I have been in contact with Claims Associates. So Claims Associates is the organization that is handling the claim or the insurance company. They're doing the administration of all of those pieces. We were able to get them through the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. So our policy is carried through the Public Assurance Alliance, and then the claim is administered through Claims Associates. I spoke directly with the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance to understand what potential financial impact the city may have. Is there a deductible? Do we have limits? What does our policy look like, since I didn't have a hard copy? And I am familiar with insurance policy, and the claims handling aspect. I was advised that there is no deductible. So this is what's considered defendable under our general liability insurance policy, and there is no deductible that's associated with it. I was also advised that there is a $25,000 per occurrence limit. So regardless of the costs that are associated, the insurance company will only pay up to that cap of $25,000. The next phone call that I was able to make, and he actually returned my phone call today, was from the claims adjuster at Claims Associates. He advised me that the case is still open, as there are still some things that are pending with regard to personnel pieces. However, and the fact that the plaintiffs have until the 26th to file an appeal. Okay, so the case isn't going to close until it's ready to close. But to date, they have an insurance company payout of costs of $16,460. I went back and I looked at any additional costs we would have, and I believe we were able to nail down costs that were associated with the lawsuit, and not from a personal perspective, but from a legal perspective, in representation of the city of Hill City. So there's an additional city attorney cost that we actually did pay the bill of $1,059. So right now, we're at $17,519 for the costs that have been associated with this lawsuit. I would expect that there's going to be more insurance company paid costs, so I'm not sure what that number is going to become at the end of the day. But we are getting close to exceeding our limit. So that would mean once there's an additional $8,000 spent on this, then any additional funds needed to defend this will come from the city directly. So I wanted to make sure that I had the real information. And again, these are not all-in costs. These are just what we have to date. So once the claim is actually closed, we'll be able to ascertain what those total costs were, but we don't have that yet. The last question that was posed is relative to the way that the lawsuit was filed, and it refers to city employees and two council members being sued directly on the suit. That was a choice of the plaintiff's attorney. The way that the suit was filed was naming specific individuals. However, they were working in the capacity of their position within Hill City. So there's other options and other ways that it can be done. It can be done directly against the city, but just in this particular case, that's how the attorney chose to file the lawsuit. So again, I've had this question asked by people on the street as well, and I was able to at least get some of these preliminary numbers. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And other than that, I didn't have any additional information. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to City Administrator Brown.
Prior to doing that, are you going to offer up any comment to that?
Sure.
Okay. So what I heard there was frivolous lawsuit, expenses. There was 4 options, as I recall. All the other 3 options cost the city money. This option was to take a lawsuit, and I'll talk about the genesis of it in a minute, and it was the least obtrusive to the city in terms of cost, because it went right to their insurance. So you can label that however you want.
Okay.
It was the most expensive to myself and Mr. Johnson, who has more money into it than what you just described.
Okay.
And why would we do something so silly like that in most people's eyes? Well, the genesis of this is not the 2-2 tie. The genesis is, why aren't things getting done? And I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit right now. What people don't realize is that we have a sidewalk project, and thank God it's getting done, but that project was slated to get done 10, 15 years ago by Dan Maxfield. I don't know when he was the mayor, Dan Maxfield. There's a resolution that says, hey, let's get this done. It's going to cost us $75,000. Well, now it's going to cost us nearly $400,000. And that's not accountable to the citizens of this town. That's the council's problem. That's the administration's problem. and that's not getting done, those things aren't getting pushed. And then when you see that year after year after year it's not getting done, questions and questions and questions, there's some accountability that needs to happen. So that's the genesis of not voting for two people at appointment time. It then led to, well, is that legal to do by the mayor? And so that argument came, we looked at the 4 different methods, and we chose the one that was the least expensive. Quite frankly, $1,000 plus an insurance company's deal, and that's questionable, that billing on the $1,000. And the most expensive to the plaintiffs. So while you may call it frivolous, I call it, why isn't this getting done? And that's the whole issue, and why those appointments were made the way they were. And so that's pretty important to me, because that extra $300 and some thousand that has just been, the statement was, well, we got the money. Well, I don't think that's a great answer. And that's somebody's road paving, probably. That's parks, that we want affordable housing, but we want to attract families. We don't have any decent, let me rephrase that, we don't have adequate daycare. We don't have parks that attract people. I mean, those things all come into play, and we just and now we got a water tower that's 10 years old, 9 years old, and the same thing. So those are the genesis. And then when you have an attorney that sits and tells me that he's not going to work on things 2.5 years ago until he knows where he's at with his pay raise, I don't think we have the right team. So while we can get all the daggers and all the stones thrown at us because we have the audacity to challenge these things, I guess, everybody's got their opinion and that kind of thing, but it's, again, 21 years ago we were 750 people, we were 1,000. We got double the size of this administration, and lack of, why aren't these things getting done? So that's the genesis of what happened. And then a 2-to-2 thing came along, and we were told that, hey, yep, none of this is expenses or appropriations, whatever. Whether you believe that or not, a judge said something, and we chose to go down that path, which was a path that cost us the most money, and the city very little to none. But
So thank you for your comments, Mr. Peterson, I appreciate it. I want to make sure that everyone understands that the information that was read was from concerned citizens. And I applaud them for feeling the ability to be able to voice their opinion. We're all going to have differing opinions, okay? One person may call something stupendous, the other person may call something garbage, okay? But I feel very comfortable that people feel that they can voice their opinion, that they can have an opinion. So it's important to me that we recognize that. And sometimes words are used that can be offensive to others. They shouldn't, because none of this is really done from a personal perspective. It's what people see and what people feel. I agree. I think we have a way to go to make sure that we have the right team in place. But the way to do it is to make sure that things start to happen. So one of the reasons why I'm sitting here today is because I thought I could effectively start to make a change in not only what we do in the city and how we get things done, but how we work together. Because the power of the community, the power of the overall team, Team Hill City, is how we will succeed and how we will get things done. So I appreciate your information, Mr. Peterson, and your ability to educate the rest of our citizens relative to the genesis of it. Again, I want to make sure that everybody understands that you can have an opinion and you can have a voice.
Absolutely.
And it's good that people feel that they can reach out and do that, and I commend and I applaud people, and that's the environment that we need to continue to have. The fact that this information is being put on the table as far as costs is because it's a real question that people have out there. And we talked about transparency, and that's exactly what this is about. No one here at the city has anything to hide. Anytime anybody wants to understand what happened or what's involved in it or why do we do what we do, we're more than happy to sit down and talk to you. So transparency is of the utmost. But this is something, again, that has been asked multiple times, and I think it was appropriate at this point, since we know that we've actually got the initial ruling from the judge, that we address some questions that the citizens have. Okay, with that being said, Brett, you want to go ahead and give us your
Okay,
report up?
thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
Main Street Sidewalk Project, if you've been down there recently, the upper sidewalk in front of Bump and Buffalo is complete up to almost the handbag store. And so when you're walking Main Street on that west side, that upper sidewalk is completely clear. You can walk on it all the way down to the other corner. Now, obviously, that stretch between Warriors Work and the handbag store isn't done yet. It's the old sidewalk. They're working on the lower sidewalk right now. So that whole lower sidewalk and that transition step is all gone. They're putting in the footing, putting in the panels in for the wall, and they've got two different crews that are kind of working right behind each other to kind of speed up. They added 3 more bodies to the project to try to help move it along a little bit more. So you'll be seeing the footings, the walls going in here next. The upper sidewalk should be what it is for the next couple of weeks. One concern that was brought up at our coordination meeting this morning is the weather. It's obviously we're getting further in December, January's coming, the colder it will get, we know it will get colder. And that will affect their ability to keep working on the project. So the goal is still to finish everything up before the end of the year. I don't know if that will happen. We might get to a point where we need to button it up for a while and come back and work on it some more. So we'll learn more and more every week just as the weather unfolds. So last Friday, we had that water leak that the mayor spoke about on Park Street. That was addressed by one of our crews. And then I was actually down on Main Street. We were doing 2 valve replacements on Main Street. So we had to coordinate just the looping of the water to make sure we were providing water to the other side of town, replacing those valves for the 2 businesses. And then we did a similar replacement today. So all of the valves on that block, just on that block between McGregor and Elm, are now complete. So in the spring, probably March, April, we'll be doing the next block with the sets of valves that need to be replaced. So no more water disruptions for a while. So
Do they have a sense of how, if they're behind now? I mean, would they, per their schedule, I mean, are they on track or?
I would say they're probably about 5 days behind, just based on weather. It's hard to do concrete when it gets so cold. There's certain standards that they got to meet by the DOT for 48-hour temperatures, and that's why they blanket and they brought that ground heater in. I would say that they're behind probably 5 days because of weather. The other reason they're kind of behind is that we started on that other side of the block in front of John Crane Gallery to get that knocked out first. And so by doing that for, I think it was about 10 days, they were on that piece. That if you kind of swap those 10 days for starting down by Granite Sports, that puts them a little bit behind. I'm glad that they did it the way they did it because we had a lot of tourism and a lot of activity. It would have been a nightmare to try to tear into that Granite Sports side. So I think the right call was made. It's just now we're pushing up against the winter. We knew it's coming. We knew it's going to get colder. So, but in my mind, if we're going to maintain some temps in the 40s, mid 40s, maybe low 40s, they should be able to continue moving. The other challenge will be they usually take some time off for the holiday, for Christmas coming up. And I heard just at our meeting this morning that they usually take about a week off. Some of the guys might want to do that, some might not. And so they're going to kind of see what crew is going, plus the weather. So it's kind of a moving target as to when the date will be where they're finished with this block. But if anybody's interested in participating at the meetings, every Monday, 8 a.m. down at the Senior Center. The last component of it is the railing that needs to go in, the permanent railing. I see. So they're communicating with the fabricator. I'm not sure if they've started production of the railing in-house in their warehouse. I know they've taken measurements on the phase 1 and 2 portion of it, so they've got that. But DOT's following up with that, plus their supervisor from Complete Concrete's following up on that. So it's through Ironworks. I know they do great work, and I don't know how backlogged they are, but they're very well aware about our project. But to me, if you've not seen that little area in front of Bumpin' Buffalo and the Broken Arrow and the ramp, it looks great. I mean, it's really going to function well for us in the future. They're going to probably pour the stair side of it and some more footings and stuff. Probably not tomorrow because it's supposed to be cold, but maybe Wednesday or Thursday there'll be some more concrete showing up. So exciting times for the sidewalk project. Business improvement project. I should have electrical engineered drawings this week. I'm hoping Wednesday, Thursday, and then we just need to go through them, and that's related to the alleyway project. It's connected into that. Once we review it on our end to make sure that everything connects together, that we're not forgetting something, my goal is to place that item of the alleyway construction on the agenda for our next council meeting, so the 23rd, for you to authorize the bid letting of that, because we're still kind of in bid letting time, so we can get it at bid let, set a deadline date for submittals, hit that submittal date, open them up, see where we're at with the bids, and then award them. I fully expect to still have the ability to do the construction in the spring, set a deadline of like mid-June to do the work. It shouldn't take that long. And so we're still on track for that. I don't see any other issues associated to that. The addition to the senior center and the restrooms, I know Buzz has been coordinating with the architect, and we had a joint meeting with the mechanical. They were supposed to get some drawings to Donovan, I think, this week. And so we're still fleshing that out. I don't have as specific dates for you unless you have some
We're still waiting
specific
for the
dates.
mechanical.
Okay. And mechanical is obviously the heating, the wiring, making sure everything's going to make sense for the setup of the kitchen. I talked to Dale earlier today about the media stuff with the TV sets, where they would be replaced, things of that nature. So it's bubbling along. I just don't have a clear forecast as to when that will come back. Once that does come back, the bid board will get together to review all of this information, ask whatever questions and polish it up and get their blessing for it. And then it'll come to the city council after that for bid letting, so that everybody's in the know of how everything transitioned. And I have been in contact with the bid board, a few bid board members, and Eileen Ham, obviously, because she's our president, our chairman. So that is coming along. The water reservoir project, all of the updated information that was requested of us from rural development has been submitted, and that was actually submitted to them today. And so I have not even looked at the updated drawings and information yet, but I know it came through. So they have that in their hands. So they need to carry the ball from here. We're just there to answer any questions that they might have. So it's in their process again.
We can get in touch with them and understand what the typical turnaround time is for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then the Major Lake Bridge project, the only challenge on that one is just working with the Forest Service as far as the easement for the relocation of the sewer line. The rest of the design is done. So I have a tentative meeting scheduled for later this week, but I need to confirm that because there's some people out with holidays and whatnot, so I need to confirm that tomorrow. And that's just essentially getting an autograph on the easement and making sure that we're following whatever Forest Service requirements there are. So anyway, so then once the ink is dry on that easement, then that will go out. Actually, I'll come here for approval to go out to bid on that project as well. That project does have some limitations as to when the work can be done. I believe it can't be done until like September, October. So we've got some time to get it out to bid. We're not losing construction time.
Okay. Anything else, Brett?
I just want to thank the Public Works crew and, all the guys, Dusty and Luke and Don and Larry. We've, with these valve replacements on Main and water breaks and snow removal and Christmas decorations and whatnot, there's a lot of things out there for them to do. And, running a city is a 24/7 operation. Something always can go wrong and kind of does go wrong. And there's different time things that go on. So, there's a lot of times that they're here working when they're scheduled to be off. And so I just want to thank them for all their hard work. So.
All right. So at the end of the report, we have an executive session, so I'll entertain a motion from the council to conclude our meeting and move to the executive session after a 5-minute break.
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Jarvis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Good night, guys. Thank you all. I'll run out and get you those.
Oh, all right.